Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an L.S.B Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named what I believe to be Rose Blossom 7's titled Boomerang. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on YouTube Music if I'm not mistaken. I think we can make this big screen and we're going to listen through it from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Just advising that I'm going to be grading this track on a set of criteria and giving it an overall score at the end, but before that, let's go. Man, that bass is fiery, man. I hope the price was worth the cost.
Should've thought about the repercussions when you decided to get dirty. You played in the mud with the pigs, yeah. Rolling around in pig pen. You're slimy, grimy, filthy. Every action deserves a reaction. 'Cause you wanted a little action. Now you're more like Action Jackson. Rest in peace. You're dead to me.
I want to pause for a sec, if this will allow me to pause. So just at the halfway point, I'll try not to pause again during this session because I'm trying to sort of spend more time listening, but the thing I notice is that there is a distortion to those 808s and those kicks, and they have been pushed. And if that's a stylistic thing, I think that's really cool. I think it's an interesting tone because often people will kind of try and stave away from that kind of digital distortion sound with those bass and drum elements there. I like the auto-tune on the vocals, like it's very aggressive meta-tune as well, but I think it's an interesting sort of unique style we're going for here, are really committing to it. The words are coming through clearly, and I appreciate that as well. It's just going to be interesting to see how they continue this.
From the dead, like the ashes you burned down. But that bridge, that's the bridge you've already crossed. It fell down, now it's gone. There's nothing left for you to come back to. All is lost in love and war, and this is war. You never will get away with what you did. I hope it eats you alive until you're a rotten corpse laying in your own grave.
Oh, it's done. I kind of like that we were just telling a story the entire time over top of like a palatable theme. It was an interesting experience. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. And welcome to the analysis and conclusion section of my review of this track from an act named Rose Blossom 7's titled Boomerang. Now, I think that I gave this track an overall score of about 7 out of 10, which is definitely not bad. There's a lot of stuff that I appreciated about this. I think the story itself, Boomerang, we heard parts of it being about like the person playing in the pig pen, and then eventually they're gonna come after you and stuff like that. So I think it's about karma or like kind of consequences and you know, having to deal with what you've caused out of your actions. You know what I mean? Like that it's gonna, so what goes around comes around. So I think that story there is quite easy to follow along to. A lot of people will be able to sort of understand and appreciate that. There'll be an audience for hearing a tale like that. The vocals are interesting. I liked a lot of the ideas we were trying to do behind the intense amount of sort of like vocal modulation we had there. There was a lot of stepping going on there, but I think that it allowed us to explore a lot of different sort of legato passages and different sort of concepts in a way that was safe. And I think that when you commit to the bit immediately, like you're not trying to be subtle about the way that you treat your voice in post-production and stuff like that, I think that's awesome. And I kind of like the aesthetic we were going for here. I think that there was a lot of range to different vocal melodies throughout. I think this was practically a through composed piece, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if there was like a chorus for a structure to it, but I don't necessarily mind that. I think in a longer track, a long form track like this where there's like a main sort of beat behind it with variations of the synth parts and stuff like that, but not a huge amount of variety in regards to the structure of the various chord progressions or something like that. You can have the vocals be the thing that keeps you going together through composed, and it's still enough. We had solid vocal technique there. I think we hit a lot of the notes that I can hear quite cleanly regardless of the vocal effects. I think it was satisfying. I mean, like, as the main vocal lead for a lot of it, we didn't have sort of stuff around the sides or anything like that, but I don't think we needed to. It was more about the kind of idea of having us in the center telling a tale to the person about what was going to happen to them because of the way they behaved, and I think that's effective. The track itself at 5:43, as I mentioned, I think it's through composed. There's not a lot of adjustment to the actual part behind the sung bits here, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that, again, if you can sort of long form a story that you're telling, it's not like there haven't been other hundreds, countless other successful musicians who have done pieces like that, like where you have a kind of a concept for a chord progression or whatever, and you kind of tell the main thing that changes is the lyrics and the way you sing. And I think that, again, we had enough variety there to sort of justify it. It is a long song, way outside of the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot that I usually have for tracks, but I think in a way, if you're invested in what they're saying, you'll take your time to listen from it. And to be fair to Rose Blossom 7's, I was not expecting it to end like that, so that caught me off guard. Often, to be fair, you have a signal from the track that things are going to get quieter there or something like that, or things are going to go down. When you have the consistency of the theme continued, it can be kind of a little bit blunt to end it like that, but nonetheless, I think that I understand what we did, and I think that it was good to sort of start off a bit slower and kind of introduce things and then kind of continue for the rest of it. I'll talk about a few of the instruments I appreciated here. I think that the bass line, the 808s that we had there, they were nice and strong. They're thick and full in the low end there. They were powerful. They kind of shoved their way into the headphones there, and it really sort of grounded the composition itself. The drums there, we had an interesting movement with those kicks. Those kicks were compressed and they were gritty, and they had a bit of sort of like fizz and pop to them, man. They were powerful kicks. And there's a bit of that sort of like digital kind of grain that I mentioned there that kind of pushed the limiters and let the faders a little bit, but I don't think in a way that was detrimental there. It's not like it negatively affected the vocal performance there. It just added a bit of edginess to this track, where I think if we hadn't had them, it might have been a bit too clean sounding, actually, because considering the kind of drama and tension and like the danger we're discussing within the story because of those actions and the consequences, the kind of sort of like the chopped kind of kicks there it kind of fit well with that tonally, I think. I think there were some occasional snare and like hi-hat patterns there, but predominantly it was that kick, whether it was quiet or not. It was there with the bass. There's that kind of pad synth there, that kind of glided through the arrangement in the whole there. We had some sparkles above that with upper layer harmonies. It was pretty sounding. It had an almost sort of ethereal, mystical sound to it that I kind of appreciated when we talk about the kind of concept of like karma and everything like that. It kind of makes sense that you have similar sounds like that to kind of suit the theme of Not like a fantasy thing, but what I mean is more like that kind of the awareness of like the cosmic kind of forces driving to be able to kind of deal what needs to be done in that situation. So I think that when you combine it with maybe some other sort of sub-layer pads, there might have been some other key parts there. I'm not sure. It was quite a tight mix, to be honest. But ultimately, I think that there was enough going on within this track, instrumental layer-wise, to keep it interesting with the understanding what I said about the vocals. And I think, that's basically it. The structure of it was consistent, and I don't think there was a note out of place there. And I think ultimately you had like a sense of mourning from the theme, I should say there. There was more of a minor focus to the overall chord progressions and harmonies there. Even though it's kind of bright and sort of like sparkly in parts because of the upper layer sort of pads, and it's more like the music sounded sad that that person had to go and mess around in the first place. The studio recording, mixing and mastering was it was a loud mix. It was pushed in the limiter. I think we had a bit of sort of distortion from like the kicks and stuff like that, but if that was a stylistic thing, that's totally fine. I think barring that, the leveling outside of that was good. The vocals were reasonably clear in the mix, even with that compression and the kind of like breathing that we were doing there in parts there, the cutting into it. Things were nice and wide in the stereo field. There's a bit of filtering and like kind of rises and such there. There was stuff going on within the actual beat behind it that was trying to sort of like encourage various transitions, but they were more subtle, I think, because of how tight the mix was. I think the reason I gave it was a 7 was simply because of the stuff we had within the beat that was cool, like the transitions and fades and modulations of like some of like the kind of synth parts and stuff like that, and the automation there. But yeah, it was loud. I think that the kind of the digital grain of the kick was more of a mixed stage thing rather than master thing. So the actual master itself, it was loud with a bit of pumping, but still, it's definitely palatable. And yeah, clearly the vocals are modulated there, but I don't think, again, it was a way which took away from the vocal performance itself or the story that was being told there. I think it was definitely more of a stylistic thing. But this is my review of this track from an act named Rose Blossom 7's titled Boomerang, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via YouTube Music and all the other places and digital stream platforms. And stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time as need the help. More than ever, a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spider Hands out.